Hello, welcome to the Craft House Magic Setters tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to do hole stitch. Now I've got this pricking that I've made up ready with just some simple pin marks in there, and you'll be able to download this from the down bar below, and you can cut the piece of paper out and put it on some manila card, quite flexible manila card, and I've just put some sticky back plastic on the bottom to make it a reusable pattern, but you don't have to do that. You could just use a piece of paper if you're just going to do it temporarily. It just won't last so long. So I'm going to pop this onto my bobbin lace cushion, and I'm going to use some pins to pin it into place. Now normally I'd pin it about there so you're halfway through the pillow, but just so that you can see it slightly better, I'm going to come down this way a bit more, and I'm just going to pin it in four corners. And it doesn't matter what pins you use as long as the top is flush when you push it into the material of your cushion. So I've got my pattern attached to my cushion now so it won't move, and I've got some cloths that I place around the pattern. So these pieces of fabric are a fat quarter size, and I've just folded them over, and I'm going to place them alongside the pattern, and this just allows your bobbins to run more smoothly over the top of the fabric as you're working. And I'll just use some pins to hold that into place. I'm going to put a second one on the other side. I don't think I spoke about these pieces of cloth in the requirements list, but you can use any piece of cloth really, as long as it's a material that your bobbins can run smoothly over. So I've just pinned those into place, and I've got two more. So I'm going to put, the most important one probably needs to go this side, so that as you're working here, your bobbins have got a nice piece of material to work on, so it doesn't get caught up so easily. As you work down your piece, you can move this down, but I'm going to leave it up there at the moment. And you can put one this side. To be honest, you wouldn't necessarily need this one side or this side of the work, but it does make it look nice and neat. The reason why you don't necessarily need it that side is because this piece you're working downwards, you're not working around in a circle or anything, so it's just to make it look nice really. So there we are, we've got our work ready to start. I'm going to pop my cushion with my pins on. I've got a massive what do you call them, like a hat pin to pop my cushion into my bobbin lace cushion, just to hold it in place, but you could use any longer pin. I know I picked these up from a knitting magazine, I think, and they're sort of categorised as knitting pins, and they tend to be a bit longer, so you could use one of those. That would tether it as well. Before you place your piece of pricking onto your cushion, you need to actually prick it and to make holes where these black dots are, so make sure you do that before you put your pins in, otherwise you'll have a bit of a job putting your pins through the holes. So pop your pins just through the holes at the top of the work. You can get tools for pushing the pins into the cushion, but I don't really use them very often, to be honest. My fingers get used to pushing on the pins a little bit. So there we go, I've got 5 pins at the top of the work, and I'm going to hang my passive pairs on there. So there we have the 5 pairs hooked on to your pins at the top, and I'm going to give them all a twist. So if you just look at this pair first, I'm going to pass the right bobbin over the left bobbin. There we are. So I'm going to do that to all of these pairs. Right over left, right over left, right over left, and right over left. You saw there that I extended the bobbins so that they're all about 10 centimetres in length from the work. So now we need to add our working pair of bobbins. So I pop the working bobbin onto the left hand pin, and I'm going to give that a twist as well, right over left. So you're going to be working with this working pair through the passive pairs, and I tend to work from left to right first, but you could work from right to left, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do my first whole stitch, and I'm only going to take into account these 4 bobbins. So these I'm going to push out of the way for a moment so you don't get confused. So we're going to number these bobbins 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I'm going to move number 2 over number 3, and then I'm going to move number 2 and 4 over 1 and 3, and then 2 over 3 again, and that is one whole stitch. So that I then move the pair that I've worked of the passives to the right hand side out of the way, and then I take the next 2 bobbins, the next pair, and I put that with my working pair, and I've got another set of 4 to work with. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We move 2 over 3, and 2 and 4 over 1 and 3, and then 2 over 3 again. So that's another whole stitch. So we move the pair you've just worked of the passive pairs to the left hand side and take your next pair. So now you've got your set of 4 again. You're only ever working with 4 at a time, so no matter how many bobbins you've got on your billow, it's only these 4 you need to worry about at that particular time. So don't feel overwhelmed by it. So I've got 4 bobbins, 1, 2, 3, 4. I move 2 over 3, 2 over 1 and 4 over 3. I'm renumbering them every time I move them, and then 2 over 3 again. So it's exactly the same movement. So I'm going to work across to the end of the row of bobbins this way. When I get to the end of the row, I do 2 twists. So I've done right over left, and then I do right over left again, and that's 2 twists. I then get myself a pin, and I put that into the first pinhole on the right hand side. What I try and do is keep my pins nice and upright, and I keep a reasonable tension on the working pair so that we get a nice neat bit of work. So we're now going to work to the left again. So we take the first pair, and we've got our set of 4 again, and we do exactly the same. 2 over 3, and 2 and 4 over 1 and 3, and then 2 over 3. And that's the same again, and we're going to work this way. And this pair, we've now worked it, so we move it over to the right. Again, we take our next pair, 2 over 3, 2 and 4 over 1 and 3, 2 over 3, and we move that to the right. And then we keep going till we get to the left hand of the work side of the work. I keep adjusting the length of my bobbin thread to keep it at about 10 centimetres. So you want all your bobbin threads to be about the same length. You don't want one to be a lot longer than the other one. The last set of 4, 2 over 3, 2 and 4 over 1 and 3, and 2 over 3 again. So we've worked all of these pairs, and now we're going to go round a pin on this side. So we can get a pin ready. I can go right over left twice. I put my pin in the hole so the thread goes around the pin, and then we take the next set of 2 to make a set of 4 bobbins to work whole stitch all the way that way. So now, as we're working, I give these threads a little bit of a pull just to keep them nice and neat, and I always, after I've worked them, I push them to the other side, and this helps keep your tension. So as I'm working, I'm just pulling not too heavy, but just pulling a little bit on those threads to keep the work nice and neat up there. You'll find that you use more thread on your working bobbins, so you'll need to add more thread to these bobbins than the rest of the passive pairs, because the passive pairs are just laying along the length of the work. The working pair is going to be working side to side, so you're going to use a lot more thread there. So we're at this side of the work again, right over left, so that's 2 twists. And then I'm going to put my pin into the next hole, and then we're going to be working this way again. This time I'm going to show you how to add some twists between your hole stitch so that it looks more separated. Here I've kept my pins quite far apart at the top of the work, so you have quite a big gap between each of the bobbins that are coming down, the passives. So it's good to have a twist between those. If you wanted to, you could add extra passives between these pins at the top to make the work more dense, and you wouldn't need to twist in between. But here's how I twist in between. So I'd make sure that the pair that I'm going to be working with has got a twist on to start with, and then I do a hole stitch. But then I twist again. So each pair I'm going to do right over left, right over left. So that is your extra twist. So I've now worked with this pair, so it's going to go over to the right. The next pair I'm going to engage. This needs a twist before I can do this new stitch with the twist in between. So I've added a twist on there. And then an extra twist. So I've done right over left on both of those bobbins. I give those a little bit of a pull to keep it nice and nice tension. Again, right over left. Once you've done one row of these ones with the extra twist in, when you come to do the next row, it's already twisted, so you won't need to do that extra twist as you start. You can see that some of the threads are bunching up a little bit, but you can just pull that tension down. Try not to pull too hard because you might break your threads. Once I've done that, I'll push them to the one side, out of the way. And then I'm going to do an extra twist. So there was already one twist on here because we did an extra twist at the end of the hole stitch. I've added another twist. Put your pin into the next hole, and then we're going to be working this way again. As you can see, I'm not having to twist them again as I'm working across, because on the previous row we've already added an extra twist at the end of the hole stitch. We'll come to the side of the work again. I'm going to add an extra twist here because 2 twists around a pin. I'm going to add a pin in. This pin's a bit bent, so I'm going to reject that actually. If I have pins that are bent, I tend to get rid of them because they don't hold the work in place enough. So I'm going to be working back this way in the same way where I'm adding an extra twist. So as you can see, you're just doing the whole stitch all the way across, but you're just adding an extra twist to tighten up work when the pins are a little bit further apart. Every so often making sure that my tension is correct. And then you shall have bobbin lace that looks something like that. So I've just worked a little bit more of this, and you can see this section here I've just worked without that extra twist, so you can see what the difference is. So this section here is worked with an extra twist, and here I've stopped doing it so that it looks a slightly more open work. So I hope you enjoy having a go at your bobbin lace. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye!